I'm Carolyn Fernald. I'm the head of marketing at Passerelle. And my favorite thing about the work that I do is I get to talk to data professionals like Josh and Jared and Troy about the work they're doing, how they're using their data stacks, and the business use cases that are driving value in their organizations and producing big wins. A few months ago, I noticed that all three of these data leaders were going through merger and acquisition motions, and I wanted to get a sense of how their data management architecture was supporting them during this time of transition. So we hopped on a call. It was a really great conversation, and I asked them if they would be willing to share this information, to share their stories in a more public forum. So here we are today. So with that, I'll introduce our panelists. I'll start with Josh Nash, who's the Senior Vice President and Director of IT at Camden National Bank. Jared Silver, who's the Senior Vice President of Digital Innovation and Data Strategy at Hanscom Federal Credit Union. And Troy Carmichael, who is the Senior Vice President of Enterprise Data Management at Renasant Bank. We also have Greg Spencer on the call. He is our Director of Financial Services at Passerelle, and he's going to be a great resource for any questions. He's going to be moderating our Q&A today. So thank you. Thanks, Greg. And great. Thanks to everyone for joining us. I think we have a critical mass here to get started with the real meat of the content here. So just taking a minute to set the stage, I'm going to ask each of you, Josh, Jared, and Troy, to just talk about the landscape today for mergers and acquisitions for banks and credit unions, and why this was the right time for your organization to get started down this road. And Josh, I'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Carolyn. For us, it's not necessarily because this particular time was correct. It's when the opportunity arises, you're really always looking for chances to grow your market and strengthen your institution. So I think it's critical that in these times of uncertainty, that's when opportunities do arise, because everybody can perform well when the markets are in your favor and everything's going easy. It's the preparation you do ahead of time so that when those uncertain times show themselves, that you are strategically placed to expand your institution. And that's what we did. We had a good deal in front of us, and we are very happy with the decision to move forward into New Hampshire.
What about you, Jared? This is Hanscom Federal Credit Union's first acquisition this decade and the first acquisition of a bank. What made this the right time and opportunity for you?
That's right. So traditionally here, I don't know that we were very, we didn't look forward to mergers and acquisitions. It was kind of something that we've done. I think the most recent was 8 years ago. We merged with Touchstone Credit Union. Prior to that, it was MITRE. And traditionally, it was more of a NCUA approaching us with an opportunity to merge with a smaller credit union that was maybe struggling a little bit to bolster them. Obviously, the NCUA doesn't want to see any credit unions go under. So not only is this the first in a long time, but it's really the first kind of active merger that we pursued. And very similarly, I think it was very much a strategic growth opportunity for us regionally, to get us into the Mid-Atlantic region, to kind of bolster our portfolio, commercial lending, as well as increase our non-interest income in a number of ways. So this very much was a strategic growth opportunity, and I think we're going to continue to look for strategic growth opportunities as well.
And Troy, what about you at Renasant Bank?
Yeah, great question. I love what Josh and Jared have both said. I've always had a view that you're either just finishing up an acquisition or heading towards one, because it's in our industry, as we know, that's kind of the nature of the business. And as Josh said, the timing, when you find a good opportunity, I think, there's always market conditions. There's, some going with the economy and maybe some deregulatory pressure going on. I know analysts have kind of a positive look for it. There's the uncertainty, whether it's tariffs, commercial, there's a lot of that stuff goes on, but I think that's more kind of a sub theme. For us, I think the main theme is, we have a scale, we have an efficiency, especially in tech and data. And so that can create some opportunities for others who have not gotten there. And so I believe if you look at kind of what's gone on in our case, our 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 technology is a big deciding factor of that, and then a sub theme of that is of course the data. And so that's where we are. We're always asking ourselves when we look at other people is, what does it take to support, every $1 billion under management? And sometimes you come across a great opportunity and said, I think it's time to add another bank to our Renasant family.
Great. And we're going to get into the details of the specific acquisitions now. You're all in different stages of your mergers and acquisition motions. Camden National Bank, you have completed the technical merger, so you are off and running with that with your new entity. Renasant Bank has completed legal day 1 and you're approaching your technical merger, and HSU, you're approaching legal day 1 here in the next couple of weeks. So I was hoping you all could tell us about your acquisitions and a little bit more about where you are in the process and the considerations with where you are in the process. And Josh, since you are the furthest along and kind of starting to look in the rearview mirror and also looking ahead, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we finished our conversion about 6 weeks ago, so we're we're a really happy place now. We've gotten past all of that. What we wanted to do is to move quickly. Anytime you're doing an acquisition, you have a real focus with the entire organization, and that means you're not looking at some of the other things that would be in your strategic plan or other opportunities that may arise. So we announced in September. Our legal day 1 was January 1st, and then, like I said, mid-March we completed the conversion. All of that was done ahead of time. When you start thinking about how can you do it effectively, it's making sure your fundamentals are strong. So for us, we've been building out plans so that when an opportunity comes up that we can quickly act. Reducing tech debt has been something we've been focused on for a long period of time, and kind of keeping up to date on that so that when we do have an opportunity, we can push forward quickly, and that we're not still trying to get older tech out or figure out what the right platform is. So we went in with a mindset of we're going to rip and replace. We feel real strong in what we have in our tech stack, especially in the data space. So we're able to integrate very rapidly because we were prepared ahead of time. And this is the first time that we've used the data stack that we've worked with Pastoral on between Snowflake, Talent, and we also use Tableau. It worked really well for us, and it allowed us to do more analysis and actual verification ahead of time. So that was a big player in us moving rapidly.
Thank you, Josh. Troy, as you approach your technical day 1 with the legal merge behind you, what are you thinking about, and tell us more about, actually, Josh, sorry, but will you kind of clarify what the merger or what the acquisition is and what that looks like as far as size and the organization?
Yeah, we acquired Northway Bank in New Hampshire, so it expanded our footprint in that space, and it was about a $1.3 billion institution. So it brings us up a little bit over 7 now, and brings us into a new market.
Great. So then, Troy, same with you. Maybe the details of the acquisition itself, and then where you are. Thank you.
Yes. Great. So Renasant Bank, our legal merge was April 1st. With the first, today is actually day 1 with our brand new CEO. It's been president CEO, and our current one retired today to the board after 40 years with the company, starting as a teller. And so we're doing a lot of change and stuff going on right now. And now we're 60 business days to tech merge. And so the first, primarily geography, we're in the Southeast, and they stretch from New Orleans to Jacksonville, Florida, very little overlap, and just makes a lot of sense for us from a geography, from a technology, some of those things. And so we went from about 18 billion to about 25 billion. So part of our story that's grown is keeping, and this goes right down to the data, is some of the same things, Snowflake, Click Talent. We have some other great parts of our tool set, but what makes it interesting at this point is, as you can imagine, the regulatory pressure has only gotten higher. So a lot of things that Josh has said about making sure you got those fundamentals, you do a lot of planning up front. We're now kind of discovering the unknowns that we knew were out there, We still haven't come across our unknown unknowns. Those are things that, is probably going to happen during the technical, merge that weekend. I would say that just kind of as a summary, we could drill down into this, but we are acquiring deposits and loans. We're merging culture. So when you're looking at M&A activity, you have to realize that culture is very important. And the people, there's always going to be this vagueness going in there, but the little things matter, not just the technology, but also the people. And that's the stage we're in right now, because we want to get that right with the internal, with the new employees are joining us, as well as our customers. And our data strategy is going to be a lot of that. And I could opine forever, but I don't want to keep on time. We got so many cool things ahead of us.
Thank you, Troy. And Jared, with 60 days to legal merge for you, what are you doing to prepare right now, and how are you approaching the consolidation?
Yeah. So in technology, it's a little bit calm before the storm. There's not much we can do from an IT standpoint. It's a lot of planning, a lot of understanding their systems, our systems, gaps. By and large, we plan on merging their information, their systems into ours, and keeping our systems, save for any net new applications or systems that we don't have that we might keep. We're by the way, merging with People's Bank of Maryland. They are, I think, about 20,000 customers and 200 million in assets. So it'll take us over 2 billion in assets and about 125,000 members. The real big but focus for us to this point has been very much compliance related. As you mentioned, a bank merging into a credit union. Not totally unheard of, and as I understand, it's becoming more and more frequent, as time goes on. But still, a lot of compliance-related, concerns. They cannot use the term bank anymore in any of in their logo, name, or any of their literature, or on their website or app. Every instance of FDIC needs to be replaced with NCUA. Lots of policies. They won't be able to offer some of the products that they were offering, or we won't be able to offer some of the products they were offering. Now in Super Now accounts, they'll have to change some of those. Certificates of deposit turn into share certificates, all those wonderful things. So a lot of the focus has been preparation, compliance related for legal day one. And then once we hit legal day one, we can start really looking at merging all of the technology systems. And again, as Troy mentioned, our data stack, I think, will help us enormously. Once we get our hands on the data, we can look at it, we can really figure out the numbers, and we can start massaging it and getting it into our systems.
Great, thanks. So Troy and Josh, this is not your first rodeo. You've both been through quite a few M&A motions before. In your experience, what makes for a good merger and acquisition? And this can look at cultural, technical, any real aspect of your organization. And Troy, I will start with you.
Great. So, technically, I'll say it that you guys have some fundamentals of, data and how that handled. And as we've grown larger now, a lot of those responsibilities are now in sub-organizations where, when we're smaller, there might be someone who has, all aspects of of deposit ops in just a very narrow spot. Well, now a lot of this is bigger. So there has to be a little bit better coordination going on. And there's some of those things which I still consider the fundamentals, that if you don't have a great team, the other stuff doesn't matter, right? So we've done this enough to where we have a great team that, besides looking at some of the technology pieces we have, and again, Snowflake has been fantastic, the way we bring things in and the way everyone knows that how cores do in that core merge. For us, technical merge day one is just gonna be greater volume. So we just plan for the volume, but everything else is gonna flow in. It'll expose the issues of data quality, which is all that kind of stuff. But I think that the real thing that makes it long-term successful, because we do it right, day one's great, but it's really, we look at most acquisitions, most acquisitions are doing because there's economies of scale. And the elephant in the room about economy of scale, sometimes not everybody can be with us long-term. And how you do that is very strategic, because no matter how you do it, it's going to affect everybody there, everybody in the future. So I think that when you're making those decisions, I think empathy is key, doing the right thing, and helping see that process for the long vision. I think also just good onboarding. Welcome. We're not two different entities now. Legal day word merge. We are one team, and it's really important to develop that new esprit de corps as we go and doing it as a team, so that they not only know they're part of one team, but they feel it as well, and they recognize that we're all there because we're all got this common goal of taking care of our customers and providing value to our shareholders. So that I think is the cultural je ne sais quoi that we have to make sure we get right.
Thanks, Troy. And Josh?
Yeah, Ed, Troy did a nice job of summing up that, culture is king, and that's the first piece. So I'm going to go a little bit more onto the technical side where we just finished. This is the sixth that I've been a part of, and there's a lot of lessons learned through that process. You figure out how to do things more efficiently, and what are some of the decisions you want to make sure you tackle early on. So we came together on the technical side with a list of expectations and what we're going to do. We're going to rip and replace the hardware. On the data side, we're going to select what needs to come over, what is required to come over. Looking at mail, making sure that our retention and our policy for that is going to be similar on both sides. We wanted to make sure that after we get past that conversion weekend, we're not holding on to data that's not necessary. It takes up resources. It's a bigger target because now you have a lot of data that's not necessary. So we came up with a list of about 7 to 10 must-haves, and we shared that with the executive team and get everybody on board. We all know that things can change and you may have to shift along the way, but kind of drawing that line in the sand allows us to move forward quickly. Uncertainty is the biggest killer in the space. You get a lot of people that are already not sure where things are going. So if you can draw some conclusions on the things that you have to do to be effective and get people on board early, really helps in the overall process.
Great. And Jared, this is not Hanscom Federal Credit Union's first acquisition, but it's your first M&A motion as a data leader. What has been an unexpected experience for you during this time of transition?
Sure. So, Troy kind of alluded to the fact that there's going to be maybe some natural attrition, during the merger, becoming one entity. Something that was unexpected for me is how quickly competition kind of jumped at the opportunity to highlight that. The People's Bank's main local community bank competitor, on the day we announced the merger, started taking the slogan, Kent County, that's where it's located, Kent County's only local community bank. They seized on that moment immediately, and it was very clear to us that we had to get our all of our marketing and information and education really aligned very, very quickly, so that we could head off a lot of these questions. Again, especially going from bank to credit union, there's so much different terminology, so much, while it all kind of feels and acts and looks the same, it all sounds different, and it's foreign to folks who maybe have never dealt with a credit union before. So that was very much unexpected, and something that we're focusing on very, a lot of our attention is to education and marketing and training.
Great. So we are going to move on to some more technical topics here. Jared, you just talked about this, the competitive space, and how this is a time of risk for losing customers. It's a time of transition for your organization, not just for your technical team and for your teams at the banks, but for your account holders and members. So what are you most concerned about during the M&A process, and how are you and your institution going to approach de-risking the overall experience? And Jared, we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah. So from a technology standpoint, I mentioned it earlier, a lot of our attention has been in gap analysis. What systems, features, functionality does People's offer that we need to replicate, add, change to make sure that things are as seamless as possible? We can only go so far, and Troy talked about sort of unknown unknowns, so we can plan for all of these things. But once we get down to it, it's going to be still, some stuff's going to crop up. An important thing for us is very much decision making. There are very key decisions that need to be made very quickly that informs sort of the operating model and the technology. What products are staying, what are going, how, are we replicating our products in their core? Are we grandfathering their products in our core? How are we doing all of this stuff? And a lot of it is business related, but also has very much technical implications. So having those business decisions made quickly allows us to then plan for our technological transition. And so I think that has been really kind of our key to hopefully mitigate risk after legal day one.
Thanks, Jared. Troy?
Yeah, so, when we talked about de-risking. If you're on this call, you're probably a control freak, because if you're in data, so that's why, you're right, you got to be comfortable with the unknown unknowns. We don't like that because we want to control everything. And to Josh's earlier point, you have to plan everything out, that you figure out how you're going to bring things in, what's not coming over, what data, all that stuff is valid. And then, especially amongst people who want to control everything, is again trying to help them say, hey, there's going to be some unknown unknowns, and we're going to be prepared for it in these ways. I think the other way that we de-risk is by anticipating what people internally are going to think. If you lose, if money outgoes in April, let's say, right after tax season, you kind of expect that. But if you don't know what's happening and have ability to understand what's happening in your bank and what's part of the normal business, you might have a hard time explaining what's going on in the marketplace. Because as Jared says, the moment they know that the bank is changing or acquiring, we do the same thing. We find out a bank's acquiring, another bank, we're in that market right away, because that is when the customers are most likely to move. They've already got something's already changing for them. And that's where the quality you've done with your client experience beforehand, during, and after really matters, because that's when they're really thinking about. Most people don't really think about who they bank with until something happens, right? Mm-hmm. So the reality is we've got to think about that. We've got to be, as data people, be prepared in advance to answer questions that people internally are going to ask. And then last moment, something is going to go wrong, right? It's going to go wrong. And that is where those of us on this call are really being paid to solve that problem, solve it quickly, and hopefully with hope, as much transparency as possible. So that's what we do. And the long list every time of what we got to do to de-risk the chance that we might miss something that we learned last time.
Thanks, Troy. And Josh?
It's important to be very, very detailed. The structure has to be in place to manage everything. And for folks that haven't been through it before, it's critical to build out that skill set, because it's one thing to run business as usual, but now you're compacting a considerable amount of projects in a very short time frame.
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming for some of the folks that haven't gone through it, and that's why you provide that structure. So what you're doing, when you're doing it, and why you're doing it. We pushed to limit uncertainty, but that's the big killer that I see happening. The other thing is move things over and test ahead of time. Anything that you can do up front before you get to that weekend is going to provide tremendous benefits. So we were able to get our ATMs online and running before, which tested our network. We were able to get the networks in line. For the most part, we got 99% of the data already preceded. So we were just doing a catch up when we got to that conversion weekend, because we know things are not going to go as planned. That always happens. So if you can get things done ahead of time, that'll free you up to maneuver when things go sideways, and you want to make sure that you have that time available. In the past, we've tried to do things, I don't want to say on the cheap, but save a buck here and you end up paying for it. You have to pay somewhere. Technology, it's critical that you stay up. So this was by far our most successful conversion. It was because of the planning. We did the right things fundamentally, and that paid off. So when we did have to make a few adjustments, fortunately there weren't many over that weekend, we had plenty of time to really put it all together. So can't stress enough. Nobody likes to look at a detailed project list, and it will definitely stress out a lot of your text, but it's going to pay dividends in the long run.
Thanks, Josh. So one of the unifying factors across your three organizations is that you're all using the Data Rocket architecture in your data management. This is ClickTalent Cloud integration to move data into a well-governed Snowflake Data Cloud environment where you can easily access one version of the truth across your organization. So how has your data architecture assisted you with your organizational goals during this time? You've touched on it a little bit, but I think we can go a little bit further into the weeds here. I know that you all have thoughts about scalability and agility, so let's get into the technical piece here, and we'll start with you, Troy.
Great. So, I mean, I'm always trying to figure out how to condense it and small enough, but for me, I would say fundamentally, any type of growth strategy is a data strategy. Data flow is liquidity. And because of that, the better we can get to the flow, the better we can get to scale. The better we can do that, the more important. And so the first part, of course, is getting all that data from your core and off-core systems centralized. So for us, of course, Snowflake Talent, very important. And to our personal story, which is, it's not just the technologies. For me, at least, a lot of the growth we've had to do the past several years. Y'all have actually played a key part in my thinking to kind of think about various things and vendors. So I don't want to just focus on the intellectual property, but also the thinking of the industry, because where we had to go. But because of that data, the way things are structured, the way it can flow, and the way we're using some other systems out there, and many that y'all brought to us, we can scale now. We're actually now, our challenge now is being able to help our culture grow fast enough to use all that is what's now available to them that was never available before. And I'd say we have true scalability because we're using fewer people, fewer technologies, which decreases the complexities. If you look at banking from an efficiency ratio standpoint, that helps drive down our efficiency ratio to where we're more efficient. And that's key. With every dollar that comes in, how are we expending that? So for me, the whole architecture has been fundamental to what we're doing. And as you probably tell, I've got a lot in my mind about where we're going, and I'm really excited about it. And the greatest impediment now for me is now helping with the people and the culture. It's no longer the technology. And that, to me, I'd say is where true scalability is, to where now it's all on the human side, not the technology side. And what can I do as a leader to affect the human environment that I'm in of all the different organizations? So I could opine forever on that.
Thanks, Troy. Jared?
Sure. So I'm data greedy, and so I'm still waiting for legal day one, and as soon as the second that clock strikes midnight on legal day one, I'm going to want to consume all of the data I can from their core, from any other systems. Right now I have more questions than answers, but my anticipation. Because we have such a nimble and flexible data stack, we can get all of the data into Snowflake very quickly. We can analyze it very quickly. We can build dashboards around it, PBI. The questions that we have are, how will this affect, compliance, low income designation, fair lending, make sure that we kind of know what's going to happen to the organization as a whole once we kind of take on these new accounts, these new members. The second, of course, is, as we were saying earlier, marketing. Make sure that we know what they have, what our new members have, what they might need, where they are. Our understanding is that the customers or the members that we'll be acquiring aren't very tech savvy. Only about 20% of them use digital banking. Very few of them use digital wallet. And so, one question, we don't do instant issue credit or plastic cards anymore, and they still do. And that was a kind of a point of contention, like, oh my goodness, you can't force our customers into using digital wallets. They just don't know how to do it, and they don't know how. And businesses around here don't accept the tap. And so really understanding demographics, usage patterns, engagement, I think will help us not just from an offensive marketing position, but also from a kind of a defensive, like where are the hurdles, where are the challenges going to be, and as well as where will we maybe need to staff up if we're doubling our commercial portfolio, if we're taking on 20% of new members, and where do they prefer chat, do they prefer calls, do they respond to emails, and all of those channels. So really we have a lot of questions, like I said, more than answers, but looking forward to being able to consume all that data and crunch it so that we can really get to some answers.
Thanks, Jared. And Josh?
The data stack was a game changer for us. It was a totally different tool that we had compared to prior acquisitions. So in this case, it was the easiest technical move. The other systems require a lot of mapping and changing. We just move those other systems over and they directly feed with our existing pipeline. So by that Sunday afternoon, we had a complete data set within our Snowflake architecture. So it was incredibly fast. One of the big things that we had in this particular conversion was the ability to grab a data set from their core ahead of time. So we could pull an extract, put it in a Snowflake, and actually start combining the two institutions, which is something that never would have dreamed of in the past. And the other thing is, while our core provider helped in the mapping, we were able to set up our own mapping program using Snowflake and then actually check 500 million records to make sure that our mapping was correct. So these are things that aren't little. I mean, this is just what a change from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And the ability to look at what is coming over ahead of time and then map it till afterwards to make sure your customer base is exactly what you thought it was going to be and there wasn't any movement. We're providing insights to the business that we never could have done in the past. So easiest part of the conversion is the data stack, but also the most exciting.
So just to dig into that just a little bit deeper, you had your technical day one over the weekend. Can you give me an example of something you were able to do on Monday that wouldn't have been possible in a previous acquisition?
Well, previously we've been setting up pipelines at that point, right? We finally get all the systems over. Now let's map them and make sure we've got the tables correct. All we did was make sure the mappings and the applications are set up. And then as soon as they were part of our environment, we ran a catch up on the pipelines, pushed all that new data in, and we were able to run reports immediately. So sounds super simple. And really it is. If your architecture is correct, it just works. So that was probably one of the biggest advantages for us.
That's great. So what strengths do you or will you expect to have as you move forward with your new combined entities? Jared, I will start with you.
Yeah, so as I was saying, this is a very much a strategic growth opportunity for us. So like I said, doubling of the commercial portfolio, advancing us in the Mid-Atlantic region, giving us access to sort of the Baltimore, DC, Philly metropolitan areas. It will also kind of allow us to do a little bit of testing of some of our fledgling marketing, cross-sell, upsell opportunities, what might work, what might not work. It's a lot easier to cross-sell to your own members versus cross-selling to brand new customers, brand new members that you're just acquiring. So I think it'll serve as a good test bed for us, as well as sort of our culture and our go-forward strategy, where we're trying to innovate. How well will our new members take with all these new innovations that we have planned and are implementing this year and next? So it's kind of a little bit of a mini sort of test, a mini beta group that we'll be testing with to allow us to really gauge the strength of our strategy.
Thank you, Jared. Josh?
Just expansion. It's New Hampshire is it's a great market. There's a lot of people with wealth. There's a a very strong deposit base that we're pulling in. It's a institution that's been around for a long time with a good with good history. We've been able to bring in some real quality people. So really, it's just about new markets, the right fit, and a lot of opportunity. All the things that you're looking for in an acquisition.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Josh. And Troy?
Yeah, if I was to think about what we didn't have before that we have now, what's really important to kind of consider, which we've all talked about, is that the technology stack is moving to what we already have. So there's not a technology stack stuff that we see over there that we now are adopting. So just ponder that for a moment, that you've not heard a whole lot of, oh, they got this great thing, because we already have that stack. So what you've heard is cultural and things like that. For us, we have a larger geography. So now, we're going further. We want to be the bank of choice for, all these banks and credit unions here in the Southeast. And so it's not just asset under management. We know how to grow that organically. We'll continue to do that. But for us, it's a geography. And of course, I like the Gulf Coast, so I got more excuse to be down there. So.
So that was this. We're approaching now our last question. So definitely, if anyone has any questions who are in attendance, please let us know. But we have talked about how your data strategy has helped supported this growth by acquisition that you all are currently going through. Can we spend a little time talking about how your data strategy supports other types of growth and innovation in your organization? And Troy, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so the first half of what I said is that, our acquisition is not bringing more technologies, but what we're now able to do with our technologies post-acquisition, and that gets really exciting. So I probably already said on this call, but data is the second greatest asset any company has. First part, that data that we own, the greatest being the people. So second greatest data, first is the people and the culture they form. So with that, as we look at our growth strategy, being that data strategy, we're not necessarily looking at becoming a bigger bank, but definitely a smarter bank. We become bigger, great. We got a great opportunity. But smarter is what's really important. So our data tech is allowing us, and I look at this, you look at some of the rocket stuff, that Musk has been throwing. If you look at the rocket, 3 generations of rockets, each one looks simpler and simpler than the other. And that is how it's really helping with our strategy, because less complexity, as we've been able to implement these technologies, we now have less complexity. And people say it's not rocket science, but it really is, because the more things that you can remove from that equation to get things right, to get decisioning right, so we get the right data, the right information from the right people at the right time. It's not easy to make it simple, but when someone looks up at something that we produce, that's an output of our data, whether it's an AI, whether it's analytics, whether it's a dashboarding, or whether it's knowing which question to ask when a customer calls in, or when someone walks into the bank, knowing enough about them already to where your tools, along with the human, are now able to help that customer get what they need, the better product, whatever. So we have that. We're actually able to do things in our marketplaces now with product offerings that our competitors, smaller and larger than us, can't do. So now we've got the bonus of not only being a community bank type feel within our communities, but a large bank's capability. So we're excited to run as long as we can. And, we want to keep on running fast because we want to make it harder for people to catch up with us. But it is because of our data strategy and how it's supporting a lot of these innovations we're coming up with right now.
Thanks, Troy. Jared?
Just generally with our new data stack, so much more is possible today than it was yesterday. Even so the channel analysis I was talking about a moment ago wasn't even possible for us. We couldn't connect to some of our data sources. We had no ability to consume API data in the old world. So much new data has opened up to us, as well as some of the third-party data sharing within Snowflake, which we, to be honest, to date have not taken great use of, but are very, very much interested in to get some better share of wallet, excuse me, share of wallet analytics and other, foot traffic analytics, things like that, to analyze foot traffic patterns and areas where we're trying to expand. These things were just not even possible in the old world. We're building better dashboards and surfacing better data to the right data at the right time to the right people. We have executive dashboards, product dashboards that really allow us to do better at data-driven decision making. That's going to continue through the merger, after the merger, and as I spoke of earlier, the data stack that we have will allows us to be a much more agile, consume that data, get it into our existing warehouse and existing dashboards and reports very quickly. The modernization, and I think the modernization that we've done in the data stack is really now setting us up as a diving board to do modernization in other areas, digital banking, other offerings. Folks can now see much more clearly the possibilities, and we've used very much our data strategy and data modernization as a platform to do that.
Thank you, Jared. And Josh?
You're hearing a recurring theme of agility here, and I think when you look at what this stack does for us is it allows us to compete well above our size, and that's the difference maker. So smaller banks may have trouble because of funding. Larger banks have all the funding, all the people, but they also have a lot on their plate. And what you'll see with acquisitions is sometimes people have a propensity to bolt things on, and you get this Franken technology that becomes very difficult and unmanageable. So this data architecture allows us to move quickly and make decisions with fewer people. And I think that's a pretty common theme here, why we're able to adapt and move quickly. And then you can ask, well, why would you share this? Well, you have to build it and you have to commit to it. And there's, I can look back 5 years and we thought we had a great model. Felt kind of like a startup with the data, but our business lines weren't quite ready for it. So we had to go out there and we had to get people on the same page and get them to start to see what we could do with it. So it takes time to also build that trust and the confidence, and you start to get results. And now we have people beating down our door to get more of what we're able to provide. And it's a really satisfying feeling that we're moving the business forward. And I think Troy said it, the data is at the center of banking now. And if you can harness that and use it effectively, you're going to be ahead of the game. So that's what I feel. We're going to continue to press on that, make sure that our architecture stays tight, and that we're continuing to look at the features that are coming out and continue to expand. We have a team of 5 now. I'd love to have more, but we're producing a tremendous amount of output.
Yep, absolutely. So I do have, we almost made it through a webinar in banking without talking about AI, but I'm going to throw a curveball at you all a little bit. So did you deploy or use any type of AI to help with the conversion work during, or are you thinking about it as you approach, Jared?
I don't know that we have thought about it very much. I'm generally supportive of Gen AI as a support to make templates, get through simple, or not simple tasks, but repetitive tasks. It's a great question. Curveball, certainly. I don't think we have thought about it, but
Okay.
but something to consider for sure.
Troy or Josh, any thoughts, any AI enablement during your during this work?
I have a comment. It's
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little bit too much of a buzzword instead of an actual application. Like years ago, as people would say, I just need data. It's like, what are you going to do with it? Now it's
big data.
Can I get some AI? You're like, great. What are you going to do with it? Now, it can be effective if used, but just to say we're deploying AI, anybody that says we're just deploying AI without a business requirement or how they're controlling it and governing it and using it, it's probably not deploying AI. But I'll stop my rant.
No.
I think there's some great tools, especially when you look at what Cortex can do, and are we playing with that? Absolutely. But to say we use it specifically for this, well, I mean, I think a lot of the platforms we all use today have some type of AI or ML built in. It's just how you're using it.
I'll rant a little bit, but also add something else. So Josh, just make a comment. Why are we willing even to have this conversation with people on here? Probably some of you guys are going to be our competitors, or they're going to hear it when they link to it, and some of the guys here. So one thing is, while data is important, we also know that you're going to have the expertise to put it together. It's going to take time, and it's cultural. You still can't outbeat the human part of it, and that brings me back down to AI. So yes, AI. I'm old enough to remember when we used to call the cloud the internet, and we used to call software as a service as professional consulting. We had all these different words that we just keep on calling the same thing. So there's a lot of stuff. It's hard to tell when just good data analytics and AI meet. And so yes, a lot of the technologies are using AI to maybe help co-build and some of that stuff. I've used it even recently, even me, when I was trying to do some things very specifically because, it can become used like Google. But really, and here's really I won't say the secret, but here's where we are. Our world here, where we are completely AI ready. Single pane of glass, maximum efficiency of so many different things. And you're still going to run into the human component of, we can go out there and have models. We can do all that kind of stuff, but it's still going to take people, organization, and using that. What use is a rocket if it can't eventually put people on there to go somewhere? So, in my opinion, while we're AI ready, we have a lot of things. We have some use cases that we're starting to look at. It's really going to be depending upon the business users using those outputs, because it's just one more form of output. A query, a spreadsheet, a BI tool, whatever it is, it's going to be another form of output. And how do you get that down to where now a human can use it with another human interaction? So that's where it is for us. And I could opine a lot more, but I agree wholeheartedly with Josh.
Okay, great. So we'll get away from the buzzword, and this will be the last question unless anything comes through the Q&A here. But when you look at your data stack and you look at the applications that are available, maybe specific to Snowflake and bringing applications to Snowflake or data sharing applications or something like that, what are you most excited about? Like moving past, I assume that this M&A cycle has taken up a lot of air in the room, and you've been kind of really focused on tactics there. But as you move forward in a combined entity, what's next? Like, what are you excited about? And I'll start with Josh. Yeah.
I can't share all of that because some of that is that's
Okay.
what we use to get ahead. I would just say I am very pleased with the approach that Snowflake has taken. They're constantly providing new tools, new apps. So that's the exciting part for us. Which ones we're using, not quite ready to share that, but I will say that there's always something new that we can leverage.
There certainly is.
I'll just jump in. So of course, agree with some of the stuff. I don't want to name names, but what I will say is that the next step. So this is just my view of the industry, like I just industry in general, so it used to be just getting your data, used to be data warehousing, BI, all these different things. I think the next innovation is really going to be how to use the next order of using that. So how to take your own first party data, how to take, available data out there that anyone can get together. And we're now becoming, like one of those cooking shows. It's like everyone gets the same ingredients at some point, but now how do we mix it together to make something great? And so for us, we're exploring areas to kind of take it to the next evolution of how that data can be used to do something great that someone else can't do, because either they don't have our data and again, they don't have our human relationships, right? Greatest is our human relationships with the people who are talking to the customer, and then our data. That's the greatest competitive asset. Those are the hardest things to change. So how are we going to mix that cake? with those ingredients and technology is where the sweet spot is.
Great. Thank you, Troy. Jared,
Yeah.
anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's starting to come to a place where data is not really a competitive advantage too much anymore. It's how you use that data, because everyone's sitting on mountains of data. It's really how you use it and what you use it for. And so, you know, as I was kind of talking about earlier, you know, using the data to make the correct decisions, to drive you know, the engagement and drive the innovation, I think is really kind of the key for us. You know, so within Snowflake, you know, they are, you know, constantly updating and bringing things in, and Cortex is their AI is very interesting. And so, you know, continuing to kind of stay on the leading edge of the new you know, the new technologies and the new frameworks, while not getting caught up in the buzzwords, which I also entirely agree with. Right? It was big data and Hadoop and analytics, and you know, we used to call it you know, operations research or business process reengineering. You know, 20, 30 years ago, it's all the same stuff. But I think that's the point: is that keeping up with the current trends and technology and making sure it's being properly evaluated with the data to know what is valuable and what is just a buzzword. So, you know, that's kind of where we keep going.
Awesome. Josh, Jared, and Troy, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your insights and sharing your thoughts and experiences with me and with everyone who attended today. And for the attendees, thank you so much for joining. I will follow up with the recording so that you can share with your internal teams. And we really appreciate your time today. Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.